6th, 2024. The time is 5:01 p.m. Madam City Clerk, will you please call roll?
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Councilmember Garner.
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Venable.
Here.
Mayor Beaver.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any public comment for closed session?
No public comments.
Thank you. This time we will now move into closed session. The time is still 5:01. Good evening. Welcome to the regular City Council Successor Agency and Housing Authority meeting of February 26, 2024. The time is 6 p.m. and welcome. At this time, I'd ask that Captain Miller please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I say Miller? Walker, I'm sorry, Captain Walker.
Ready, begin.
I need a break from law enforcement. I got too many captains in my head. All right. Thank you, Captain Walker. Madam City Clerk, will you please call roll?
Councilmember Duncan,
Here.
Councilmember Garner,
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Venable,
Here.
Mayor Bieber.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. City Attorney, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, on item A, settlement direction was given by consensus of the City Council.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Thank you. Moving on to special presentations. You Capture Yucaipa Photo Contest presented by Mary Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Mary Johnson. I'm the Community Services Supervisor overseeing special events, the Performing Arts Center, and marketing. I also have with me Emma Peterson, our Marketing Coordinator. And we want to thank you for giving Community Services Marketing Team an opportunity to acknowledge the winners of the You Capture Yucaipa Photo Contest this evening. The contest was created last year as an opportunity to highlight not only our city's picturesque landscapes and community life, but the incredible talent we have here in Yucaipa. There were 3 categories to enter, including animals, scenery, and your community. We were amazed by the response we received this year, being our first, as we received 74 entries. Every photo that was submitted celebrated what we all love about Yucaipa. Tonight, we will be awarding and recognizing an overall grand prize winner, first, second, and third place winners, and an honorable mention in each category. All the winners will be receiving custom You Capture Yucaipa cookies donated by Roundabout Sweets. Third place winners will receive $20 gift cards to White Rabbit Coffee Company. Second place winners will receive $35 to Montrose Sub Shop and Roundabout Sweets. And first place winners will receive $50 to Rebels Burgers and Brew. Our grand prize winner, in addition to the $50 gift card, will be receiving 2 tickets to our March comedy show at the Yucaipa Performing Arts Center. And so I ask that each photographer please stand when your name is called. The top entries that were selected for honorable mention are, in the animals category, Susan Wilburn for her photo of the pelican titled Morning at the Lake. Scenery category, Damian Stout for his photo of the fields and hills surrounding Yucaipa Boulevard. And your community category, Kelly Mitchell's capture of the Flag Hill Park sunset. Our third place winners from each category are, animals category, Susan Wilburn for her photo of the bobcat in early morning light. The scenery category, a photographer who could not be here tonight, Jill Quinwell, view from Crafton Hills. And your community category, Dylan Alvarez on behalf of Robert Alvarez for winter at Yucaipa Community Park. The second place winners from each category. Animals category, Jennifer Langley, cows on Bryant. Scenery category, Philip Focus, capture of Yucaipa Regional Park. And your community category, Justin Crabb for his photo of early morning on the boulevard. Our first place winners from each category, animals category, Bradley Westwood for his photo of the bald eagle in the snow. Scenery category, Rosanna Roa for trail near Zanja Peak. And your Yucaipa category, Taryn McClenathan for Friday night cruising the boulevard. And finally, from our pool of first place winners, one outstanding capture was selected as the 2023 grand prize winner. And this year's grand prize winner is Bradley Westwood for his photo of Justice, the local Yucaipa bald eagle perched on a tree in the snow. Congratulations to all the 2023 photo contest winners, and thank you so much for capturing what makes you proud of Yucaipa. All winning photos that were recognized this evening will be displayed online at yucaipa.gov/photo contest, where the 2024 contest will open on March 1st.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you to everybody who participated in capturing what is the beauty of Yucaipa. So, job well done to everybody. Let's give everyone a round of applause one more time. Yeah, we should. So we're gonna put our cameras to the test and make sure we can get that zoom out. So if everybody who won a certificate can come down here in the front, we'd love to have a photo taken with you. Yeah. Get in tight like we don't have family, huh? Scoot over to the middle best you can. All right, now we'll move on to the public safety update. For the police update, Captain Walker.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This will be your Police Department stats for the month of January of 2024. Last month in January, we had 4,301 calls for service, which was an increase of over December by 752 calls. Our average response time to emergency calls in January was right around that 4.5-minute mark, which we've talked about in the past. We're always trying to keep that as low as possible. I think this is our third month now where we've been right around that 4.5-minute mark. Part 1 crimes for the month of January, we had 1 reported rape, 2 reported aggravated assaults, 11 burglaries, 20 theft-related reports, and 4 motor vehicle thefts. We had, as you can see on the slide, no homicides, no robberies, and no reported arsons during the month of January. For January arrests, we had 132 total arrests, 109 of which of those arrests were adult bookings into one of our correctional facilities. Our most common arrests for the month of January were narcotics-related offenses and warrant arrests. And then as you can see, we had 8 DUI arrests for the month of January. Traffic enforcement, we had 285 traffic citations written in January. We had a total of 22 traffic collisions that were investigated, to include 1 fatal traffic accident, which occurred on Wildwood Canyon Road, if you remember. It was a vehicle versus a motorcycle. We had 92 extra patrols in what's reported to us as problem areas. So again, as I've mentioned before, those are, as we attend public meetings or we get calls into the station and the community members report problem areas, we try to make sure we go out of our way to target those areas. So I encourage the public to call in or let us know at these meetings if there's a problem area. We try to take note of that and spend some extra time in those areas. And then we had 4 Office of Traffic Safety grant-funded operations during January. Those operations were DUI saturation, PCF or primary collision factor. So when we identify primary collision factors or the reason why crashes are happening, we use that OTS grant money to target that specific violation. So for instance, if we're seeing a lot of collisions that are a result of speeding, we'll do a speeding operation, or if it's a stop sign violation collisions, we'll target stop sign violations, things of that nature. And then we did one pedestrian and vehicle safety. So pedestrians walking in crosswalks and vehicles entering the crosswalk before the pedestrians out of the way, things like that. So those were our OTS grant funded operations for the month of January. And then our SOP team, they initiated 149 calls or contacts within the community in January. 9 of those contacts resulted in the subject accepting some form of assistance or some type of assistance. They made 11 arrests. They did 38 security checks. We've really been trying to hone in and target our vacant structures throughout the city, those problem houses that aren't occupied where typically nefarious activity occurs. So we're trying to target those as best we can. Our SOP team's also been continually trying to collaborate with businesses, business owners, and managers of those businesses to identify problem areas and trends that are affecting our local businesses. And then not just related to SOP, but as a station as a whole and as a department, we're trying to revive our crime-free multi-housing programs and our neighborhood watch programs. So look for it on social media. If you're in a neighborhood and you think you're, as a group, are looking to get involved in a neighborhood watch program, we'll be launching that here shortly. And that will be the end of the report. And if you have any questions.
Thank you, Captain. Any questions for the captain? No? Thank you, sir. Great presentation.
I have to give a shout out to the city clerk. She redid my graphics up there because apparently they were too hard to read the last time. So, shout out.
Outstanding. Chief Malinowski for the fire update, please.
Evening, council and mayor. This will be a report for January of '24. We did see 638 calls for service citywide, 10% decrease from December of 2023. For whatever reason, January is historically our slowest month of the year consistently. Really same kind of breakdown as all the other months. We're pretty consistent on the call types. Significant incidents, we did have an RV into a structure off Bryant. We did have a gas leak off Vineyard that shut down several residences for a couple hours as the gas company, I'm sure you guys are aware, has to dig up the street, and then we run the risk of static electricity explosions, stuff like that. So we were on standby for that. Hiker rescue off Zanja Peak, and then as Captain Walker mentioned, the fatal TC off Wildwood. Training, so we were able to partner with SCD and provide their SWAT officers with the medical training update for their licenses. We did several of their staff to get their EMS credentials where they need to be. We did some EF recovery training, that's that cost recovery, civil cost recovery for the fire department training, rolling out to a real user-friendly iPad format instead of the old paper and internet form. I recently attended a Type 1 PIO training. So still need to finish my task book, but that's where I can go out and do PIO on Type 1 incidents. So for reference, the El Dorado was a Type 2 incident. So Type 1 would be like your, the major wildfires, and not that that wasn't, but your Camp Fire, your Hurricane Katrina type stuff. And then paramedic precepting, we did graduate one of our paramedic students, and just a reminder, these are 25 24-hour shifts, so 600 hours of volunteer time that our firefighter paramedic Gertz there donated to get that guy on the street. So hopefully we can hire him and treat our citizens here. We were continuing projects we're working on are Wildwood Sequa. So we're still working with state parks and CAL FIRE to provide treatment in the Wildwood State Park. That has gone out to, as Councilman Thorpe knows, regularly attends the meetings. We've flown the Sequa through an IERCD grant with CAL FIRE, and we're hoping to have that Sequa done by December so we can actually start doing work on the ground. So that's good news. EMS RFP workshops, so we've gone from the RFP to the actual implementation, so that's kicked off and everything's going smooth on that. And then VHF radios, council approved it. We were meeting a deadline with the state to have compliant radios, and our radios were probably over 10 years old, so now our fire radios have all transitioned to the new modern VHF radios. So that was a huge win for us, and I appreciate that. That's all I have for you, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions of our fire chief? No? Thank you, sir. Good presentation. Mr. Matlock, for the code enforcement update, please.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. This is the January 2024 update for the Code Enforcement Division. As part of it, we had 97 new cases that were submitted, and 37 of them were resolved by the end of the month. Really, kind of the big things that we had this month was issues related to unpermitted construction and trash and debris, kind of leading the number of responses. In terms of unhoused efforts, the code enforcement contribution with the SOP team was kind of over 90 police department assists, 20 different individuals that were contacted, or different individual contacts, and 4 of them accepted help, so that's a very good positive outcome from the SOP team and our contributions with the collaboration of that program. And then inspections, we completed 348 different inspections, which did result in 138 different citations. As part of our code enforcement, the administrative citation process, $12,000 were received in citation fees. The mobile home parks, we didn't do any comprehensive all agency inspections just because of the rain and other factors, but there were individual inspections done based on complaints received. And then the chicken ranches were also inspected, and no violations were reported from there. And then kind of one of the bid projects that we had is we did do an abatement warrant on a problem property that had a lot of trash and debris. The owner hasn't been able to help through that process, and so we were able to go in there and kind of resolve that issue. And so the property is looking a lot better, and we're on the next steps of trying to make sure that that doesn't happen again on that property. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions of our planning manager? No? Thank you, sir. Following on the heels of our public safety update, Mr. City Manager, can you speak a little bit on our solutions-oriented policing, our homeless strategic plan, and the influence it's having on the region?
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, we've been very pleased since that program has gone into effect, which really, in terms of boots on the ground, wasn't until probably about October of last year. It's really been making a visible impact on the community, so much so that we've had 2 separate cities at this point reach out and ask to meet with our staff to pick their brains on what we're doing that's working. Word's getting around. City of Redlands was one, and then all the way out in Bullhead City, word has spread there too. So it's certainly an ongoing issue that we'll need to stay on top of, but really encouraging data we're getting back in terms of the results from the point in time count. Those numbers aren't public yet. The county asked that we not share them until the county releases the numbers, but and just kind of anecdotally driving around town, people have been noticing, and I've been noticing a reduction. So kudos to the SOP team. Their hard work is already paying off for the community.
Indeed. So to our sheriff's department, code enforcement, our park rangers, and truly just everybody on staff. And to that point, I think a big part of it is members of the community using that app, reporting what they see. It's working, and I've seen the difference from the amount of homeless people walking the streets. Just to follow up on our solutions-oriented policing, mindset. It's not illegal to be homeless. We want to help the ones who want help, but certainly being homeless does not mean you have a free ticket to break the law in the city of Yucaipa. And with the folks from the county really giving that hand up to people who want the help, and then to our sheriff's deputies and our code enforcement officers who are making sure that the laws of our city are enforced. Well done by all. It is noticeable, so thank you. All right, that takes us to public comment. If you'd like to speak, public speaker slips are at the back. Go ahead and fill out the slip, hand it to our city clerk. She'll pass it on to me. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak. If you'd like to speak on a specific agenda item, please denote it on the public speaker slip so I can call it during that item. Our first speaker is Dr. Hanson Wong, followed by Mrs. Colleen Wong.
Hanson Wong, Yucaipa. Before I get started, I just thought I'd tell you about a couple of things. Kudos to Megan and to Anna for having healthy snacks out there instead of just unhealthy snacks. I'll put it that way. Secondly, there's a bunny hop Easter towards the end of March. We would love it if all of the council members would be there. Bring your kids, animals, strollers, whatever you have. And then last of all, kudos to the police department for their rapid response rate. That's amazing that they do so well. So thank you again to all of you for doing that. Okay, so seeing the pictures of the beauty of Yucaipa, that is such an awesome thing in all the different areas, the birds and animals and environmental view. Think of that when the Wine Country Specific Plan comes up, because again, whatever we adopt for this plan, we need to try and maintain the visualization, the ability for us, our children, our grandchildren, to walk there and see what's going on and be able to have enough open space and trails in my mind. A couple of things that I see that are not complete on the presentations by the city staff and our city manager that maybe you have already in your packet. If not, you might ask them for it. What are the things? One, the financial impact. The information that is given back has only what is on the revenue, but on the other side, the CFDs and so on, they said they don't do it. So I don't understand why we didn't get somebody that could put that line item in so we both see the positives and negatives, because you need to know the financial impact to us. The traffic, they talk about having arrows. People who had a few drinks, they're not going to follow any arrows. So we need to see where they're going to go. I like to make sure it doesn't impact our high school and our college runners, hikers, bikers, and so on, because our sports people utilize those functions. And on any of this, if there's anything that you do in your private life or in the city council, be it committee, commission, city council members, staff, that might be ethically in the gray zone, please consider recusing yourself. The communications, you need a report on the communications, how many meetings they had for the last 5 years, all the yays and nays, and also the current poll. I'm sorry, my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Mrs. Wong, followed by Mr. George Sardison.
I've been attending all of your presentations by your staff, and I've got to tell you, they have been quite the snow job. When Mr. Mann was first employed, there were a great many things that we were concerned about. His webpage stated elected officials are facing increasing public pressure to vote against development of all types. As a result, it is more important than ever that officials are provided the political cover they need. Whether seeking project approvals, looking to affect an outcome at the ballot box, Mann Communications has the right experience, relationships, and strategic approach to help you achieve your goals. Boy, you got a really good guy here. Man Communications is a public relations company specializing in land use entitlement and development consulting, political campaign strategy, and strategic communications and community outreach service for public agencies. Man Communications has extensive experience gaining positive results for our land use clients through aggressive government, media, and community relations programs. Practice in the formation and operations of independent political committees and organizations such as Inland Empire Taxpayers Association, running for office, looking to affect the outcomes of race, independent expenditures looking to affect the outcomes of race. This is what he's been doing. We didn't get our recalls through because he made sure we didn't, because he made sure that Anna was really effective in doing what she did. He also has been doing a really good job of making sure that none of us could get more than one question in. We couldn't have a follow-up question. We certainly couldn't have a back and forth going on until this very last presentation that he did, and then we could have a few because we had an extra hour, and then we were allowed to have some back and forth, which was good, but we weren't allowed to talk to you all and tell you really what we felt about your idea of having the city responsible for all the failed wineries, because that's not something that I want to have the city in charge of. 60% of new wineries fail. I don't want to be, as a taxpayer, responsible for that.
Thank you for your comments,
And
ma'am.
I don't want the city doing it either.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Mr. George Sardison.
George Sardison, 12451 Custer Street. Since I'm always listed in the closed session items related to the existing litigation, I would ask that Mr. Graham repeat his report. It was very difficult to hear from the back of the room there. I wasn't the only one that had a little difficulty, so if Mr. Graham could please repeat that for myself. And also, is there any plans to have any further discussion related to this litigation prior to the court date of March 8th, which is a week from this Friday? Is that possible to?
Do you have further public comment before we have him respond, sir? Do you have further public comment before we have him respond?
No, that'll be fine.
Oh, okay, thank you for your comment, sir. Madam City Clerk, do you have any other public speaker slips in front of you?
I have one more, but it's for item number 8.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney, would you care to comment on the matter?
Absolutely. For closed session, item A, the city council gave settlement direction by consensus.
Okay. All right, moving on to consent agenda. What does that mean? Ma'am, now is not the appropriate time for us to go into dialogue. I'm certain that you'll have meaningful conversations with your elected officials, but now's not the time. We need to move on with our meeting. Consent agenda items 1 through 5. Is there any member of the council that wishes to have an item removed from consent?
I got to recuse myself for the minutes last meeting.
Noted. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move. A second.
Motion by Councilman Thorpe, seconded by Councilman Duncan. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to discussion items. Item number 6, presented by Sarah Martinez, Youth Advisory Committee appointment.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am here this evening as the staff liaison for the Youth Advisory Committee, and it is my sincere pleasure to introduce Ms. Gretchen Lewis, and we are recommending her appointment to the committee. She is currently a junior at Yucaipa High School and has a solid 3.9 GPA. If Studying was not enough for her. She also participates in various club activities on campus, which consist of varsity cheerleading, varsity tennis, a member of the Best Buddy Club, and a member of the Fellowship for Christian Athletes. Not only that, but she also plays the piano and studies ballet. So Gretchen and I have no doubt that she will be a great fit to the committee as she strives to be a positive role model. So with the recommended appointment this evening, the committee will have 8 members and will continue to recruit for the remaining 5 vacancies. So at this time, I invite Gretchen to say a few words, which will conclude our presentation, but staff are available for questions.
Hi, my name is Gretchen Lewis. I'm 17 years old and currently a junior at Yucaipa High School. I am very involved in the community at YHS. I have an overall high school GPA of 3.9 and have taken honors and AP classes. I'm a 3-sport athlete, varsity cheerleader, and varsity tennis player, and this year I joined the long distance track team. In addition, I am a dancer outside of school. I feel that I have great leadership skills. In my sophomore year of high school, I was the JV cheer captain, and this past tennis season, I was one of the varsity captains. I not only participate in sports, but in clubs as well. I'm a part of the Block Y Letterman's Club for Varsity Athletes, where I am the tennis representative. I'm also involved in the Best Buddies Club on campus. The club's purpose is to build one-to-one friendships with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I feel I would be a great addition to the Yucaipa Youth Advisory Committee because I am able to communicate well with people in the community and listen to their opinions. When I was in middle school, I was SECA's Student Leaders Class Secretary, where I was able to voice my ideas and opinions for SECA students. It is important to me for my voice and for other teens' voices to be heard in the city of Yucaipa, and I could do that on the Youth Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Wow.
I know, she's smarter than my whole family.
Where's, is Jamie and Timothy here? Where's mom and dad? Mom's here? Outstanding job. I mean, the credit goes to you for sure. Gretchen, what's your 5-year plan? Where are you going to be in 5 years? What do you want to do with all? I mean, you're very involved in the community already. You're going to take your time on the Youth Advisory Committee and do what with it? What's your 5-year plan?
So I want to attend a 4-year college once I graduate high school, and become a speech therapist and maybe a realtor on the side. So, yeah.
Outstanding. Okay. All right.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by our Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Thorpe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, motion carries, ma'am. Congratulations. Love to get our picture with you.
Oh, okay. Just say this.
See. Every time, Sarah, every time you bring a youth advisory appointee in front of the council, it gives me so much hope for our future, because all too often in my line of work, I see not that. And she's articulate, and she didn't say bussin', no cap, on God, for real, not one time. And that drives me absolutely insane when I hear that. So she's articulate and she's well-spoken at 17 years old. And thank you. Keep on doing that, Sarah. Keep them coming, okay? All right. Mr. Landon Kern, let's talk about Trails and Open Spaces Committee appointment.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. This report is for the appointment of an applicant for a vacant position on the Trails and Open Space Committee. At the end of last year, one of the at-large members of the Trails and Open Space Committee resigned, and resulting in this vacant position. The city has received 2 citizen service applications from residents interested in joining. The applicants have been notified of this meeting and advised that council typically desires their attendance to provide additional information if needed. I believe at least one of the applicants is here with us this evening. And with that, staff recommends that city council review the applications and nominate 1 applicant for the at-large membership to the committee and vote on the appointment of the applicant.
Thank you, sir. All right. Is there questions of either staff or a nomination?
I'll nominate Sean Burdine.
All right, we have a motion for Sean Burdine,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilman Garner. Any other nominations? All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Sean, are you present? Would you like to say a few words?
Mayor and council, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. Can you hear me back there?
Yeah.
Is that a little better? Sorry, not used to the mic. I really appreciate the opportunity given to make a difference in the parks and open spaces. And my name is Sean Burdine again. Nice to meet y'all, and I hope I can make a difference given the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your willingness, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 8. This presentation is by our city attorney, Mr. Graham, adoption of ordinance related to campaign contribution limits.
Thank you, Mayor. The presentation on this is substantially identical to the presentation I gave on January 22nd, 2024. So I won't go through all of the details again unless the council would like me to. At the January 22nd meeting, the city council directed the city attorney to return with an ordinance setting campaign contribution limits at $10,000. That is attached as ordinance number 443. For reference, ordinance number 440, which was the original proposal that set no limits, is also attached. And I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, sir. We have one public speaker, Mr. Miskin.
Thank you, council members. It's wonderful to be here with this evening and appreciate your service as well. A month ago, when this came up, I spoke on this particular agenda item. And afterward, after the public hearing portion of it, I was asked a question but wasn't allowed to answer the question. Councilman Bobby Duncan asked me if I knew how much it took or what it cost for a campaign. I wasn't allowed to answer that, but I do know and can tell you that for each of you, for instance, Mayor Beaver, you spent $7,000 on your last campaign. John Thorpe, you spent $11,500 on your last campaign. Bobby, you spent $19,500 on your last campaign. Chris, you spent $30,500, and Matt Garner spent somewhere north of $35,000 on his campaign. The maximum donation for each of you was, and your donor, was $1,500 from SEBA, which I believe is the Sheriff's Employees Benefit Association, $1,500 to Mayor Beaver, $1,500 to John Thorpe. The maximum contribution to Bobby Duncan was $2,000. The maximum contribution to Chris Venable was $4,000 by Pine Street, a limited partnership out of Ontario. Not sure what they do, couldn't find anything about them. The highest donation to Matt Garner was $5,400 from a PAC, High Desert Jobs PAC. And the next highest was from Pine Street at $4,000 as well, a limited partnership. Again, we don't know what they do, but certainly out of town. The median contribution, Mayor, to your campaign was $110. The median to John Thorpe was $250. The median to Chris Venable was $500, and also to Matt Garner, $500. The purpose of these campaign contribution limitations is to put the people back in charge of government. The purpose of these limitations is to make sure that the people have a voice in the government, that this government is run by the people and for the people. That's the purpose. The state set a limit of $5,500. The city was going to have unlimited campaign contribution limits, and then that's been reduced to $10,000. But as I've just read to you these statistics from your own campaigns, there's no justification for a $10,000 campaign limitation. There have been nothing even close to that, or even to the state's campaign limitation of $5,500. I'm also concerned about the fact that a number of the donors have contracts or have projects that have been voted on by this city council. And I propose that there be an ordinance to change that, to make sure that council members actually get to notify us of who they're voting for.
Thank you for your comment, sir. All right. So 443 was the one we asked you to bring back to us, sir?
That's correct. 443 has the $10,000 campaign contribution limit.
All right. Is there a motion relative to item number 8?
So what would be the motion?
Well,
We have two items on the agenda, two subject matter, or is it just one?
You can elect to introduce and set for second reading either ordinance number 440, which was the original ordinance that was drafted, ordinance 443, which was the revised ordinance that the city council asked that I prepare for consideration. 443 would be the 10,000 limit. 440 would be the no limit, the original ordinance. Either or neither.
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 443 as requested at our last city council meeting.
I'll make a motion for the 440 unlimited.
Is there a second on either motion?
I'm going to second, excuse me, I'm going to second item number 1, which is the one for 440, and I want to give an explanation why. I think if we set it as unlimited, it helps with, or lends itself to more transparency. People then report it properly. People can pull that information. This was done tonight. They can tell you what's been donated. When you set a limit, if people want to go above that limit, then what happens is a lot of times they will go through a PAC. And it is very difficult at that point to see who and where that money is coming from. So that is my justification or my reasoning behind why I would vote for one, or why I'm seconding it.
Are you seconding Matt's or Justin's?
That'd be Matt's.
Matt's.
All right. We have a first and a second for motion on ordinance number 440 to bring it back for second reading. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries 4-1. Moving on to item number 9, Mr. Philip White, fiscal year 2023-24 mid-year budget update.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. In your packets tonight, item number 9 is the mid-year budget for fiscal year 24. All right, so you adopted this budget in June of 23. The purpose of tonight is to go through a status report of where we are based on the spending plan that was adopted at that point in time, and then make a couple of adjustments. There's a few requests that are in there for your consideration, and give a brief overview of where we're headed for the rest of the fiscal year. So we're going to review a couple of funds, the general fund and the fire fund. We have, like we've mentioned several times, we have a lot of funds here at the city. The general fund and the fire fund are two of the more significant funds, and those are the funds that also have adjustments for your consideration tonight. That's the reason that those are being highlighted. So this is an excerpt from the budget that was adopted in June of 23. Those red circles are highlighting the general fund, and the fire fund all that chicken scratch down the left-hand side are all of our other funds. So again, we have a lot of funds. We're focused tonight on the general fund and the fire fund. If you take the first column and the last column, that is equity fund balance. And so you can see the general fund, when that was adopted, there was a decrease of $2 million. It went from 40 million to 38 million. And so that decrease of $2 million is a budgetary deficit of $2 million at the time of adoption. And while we're on this one, the fire fund also has a decrease of $2.4 million. So when the spending plan was adopted, we had a $2 million deficit in the general fund and a $2.5 million deficit in the fire fund. All right, so now we're fast forwarding to 12/31, December 31st. And so that revised budget, right there, that first column, that is reflective of the adopted budget plus any adjustments along the way up through December 31st, 2023. So that adopted budget, we are up to a $7 million deficit. It went from 2 to 7. And the primary reason it went from 2 to 7 is this item right there, that $8 million is non-department and transfers out, and that includes approximately a $5 million adjustment for the Hillary storm. So we talked about storm damage and estimates at that point in time were estimated about $5 million, and that was an approved amendment to the budget. So our general fund, as it currently stands, has a $7 million deficit included in the packet tonight. The second column, I should highlight, top section is revenues and inflows. The first circle in red is expenditures and outflows, and that red circle at the bottom is a plus minus in equity. So in this case, a $7 million deficit. The second column is just annualizing or bringing that to a mid-year number. So it's just the first column divided by a half. The third column is actual amounts up through 12/31. And then that fourth column is the difference between columns 2 and 3. So you'll see that there is starting at the top, revenues are under our projected spot by $5.4 million at this point in time. That's normal based on the way we receive the timing of when we normally get money. So starting from the top, property taxes, that number's a little bit over, but we get a little bit over 50% of our property taxes before December 31st. And so we're actually tracking spot on with property taxes. We're gonna end right where we were projected to. Sales tax comes in 2 to 3 months late, and so those numbers are based on actual receipts, but there's a 2 to 3 month delay. So again, with sales tax, even though that says we're $1.4 million under, we're actually tracking right on. By the time we get to the end of the year, we'll be spot on with sales tax as well. Other revenues has a big property tax component of it, VLA, vehicle in lieu. And we got a significant receipt in January, right after this was created. So again, we're tracking right on. And then transfers in are posted at year end, and so nothing's been posted on those yet. So the $5.4 million that is reflected as under, we're right on target as far as revenues go. Expenditures sort of do the same thing. We're a little bit over, a little bit under on as you go up and down that column, but most of that it has to do with timing. There are 2 exceptions to that. One is under police services. It says that we're under budget by 1.5 million. We get monthly invoices, and we're 1 month behind. And the amount of our invoices are a little over $1 million. So again, we're right on with police services. The very last row, right there, the $3 million is reflective of the Hillary storm damage repair work is actually under the $5 million. So we're a couple million under that. We're projected to wrap up that repair work significantly less than the $5 million. So that's true budget savings. So we're going to be under budget in that number right there. And so right now, at this point in time, it looks like we're $500,000 to the good. Best guess from my standpoint is when we get to year end, we're going to end the year with roughly a $4 million deficit. Instead of the $7 million, we're going to be right around the $4 million deficit range. So a lot of information there, but for your consideration, when we talk about deficits in the general fund, best guess at this point in time is we're looking at a $4 million deficit, which includes the original $2 million plus the Hillary storm damage. Okay. Right. Moving on to the fire fund. Same categories here. The timing of the revenues is a little bit more consistent in the fire fund. We get property tax, again, we get a little bit over 50% of it before 12/31, so it looks like we're over, but actually we're right on. And then moving down to the expenditures, we get quarterly invoices for fire that are always delayed, so it looks like we're way under budget. We're not, we just haven't been invoiced yet, and so we'll catch up. From a fire fund perspective, we're right on with what we were tracking when the spending plan was adopted. So that $2.4 million is best guess. We're going to end the year with a $2.4 million deficit in the fire fund. All right, moving on to the requests that are coming in. So this is general fund. We have expenditures on the left-hand side. We have $1.5 million of expenditure appropriations being added is the request. Some of those expenses have corresponding revenues, and so we have $1.2 million over here of revenues. The net adjustment is an increase of $388,000 for the spending plan in the general fund, and that would bring that $7 million that we just looked at up to $7.5 million. With these expenditures, like I said, some of them have a corresponding revenue. And so one of them is the STARS programming. There's a $1 million request for programming in the STARS program, the after-school program. That is a pass-through. We are reimbursed through the school district for that. So there's a corresponding $1 million revenue associated with it. So every dollar that Megan spends on after-school programming, there's a corresponding revenue. So it's not new general fund money that's being spent. It's just an increase in the school district's request for programming. Similarly, there is a procurement for a skip loader. That skip loader has, there's restricted money that is offset, that is going to be used to fund that procurement. And so that $140,000 is offset with restricted money. No new general fund money associated with that one. And then the rest of them are scattered throughout. You can provide more detail on those if you're interested. Moving on to the fire fund, there are 3 items being requested, all adds. One is the battalion chief vehicle. You may have seen that one several times along the way. It's finally ready to be procured. So that item is being asked to be included in the mid-year adjustment. Fuel costs are above what they were included at in the spending plan. So there's a $40,000 request to add for fuel. And then a couple weeks ago, there was an emergency roof repair necessary at Fire Station 3, and so there's a $14,000 item for that. After these adjustments, that $2.4 million that was originally highlighted in the fire fund is now up to $2.5 million. And again, we're pretty, the original estimates were pretty good, and so I think that's where we're gonna end the year. The fire fund does have an accumulated balance. After this year, the projected ending number will be 7.9 million will be the ending savings account, equity, whatever you'd like to call it, in the fire fund. So that number built up over time. Now it's starting to get spent down. End of this year, it'll be down to approximately 7.9 million after these adjustments, if they're approved. And finally, the third item that's included for your consideration is additions to capital. There are 3 items. We'll skip the first one for a moment. The second item, the 10th Street storm drain, is a project that is going to be funded with, last fiscal year, you approved a refunding of the Chapman Heights CFDs. Included in that refunding, $485,000 was generated for improvements within Chapman Heights. This is the project that's going to use those restricted funds. And so there's storm drain work that needs to be repaired. And so that restricted money is being matched with the funding that came up last year. Second item at the bottom there is $150,000 related to CDBG, Community Development Block Grant money, also restricted, and that has to do with roof and floor repair over at the senior center. Part of that project was already in the queue. The bids came back. The bids were more than originally anticipated, and there is additional funding within CDBG that's available to fund it. So this is restricted money, again, not general fund money, but restricted money that's being used for that. The third item, going back to the top, 7th Street rehab. So there's $500,000 there. Several years ago, and for several years, that project was included in the CIP program. We've mentioned a couple times about record keeping and tracking. It looked like a couple years ago that project fell off and disappeared from the CIP. That was identified. Those things still need to be done. So through mid-year, we're asking that gets re-added onto the CIP. So we're asking for authorization to do that. With that, item number 9 has 6 recommendations that we're asking to be approved, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. White. Other questions for staff?
Was that skip loader, was that a brand new one?
Brand new.
Brand new.
Brand new. I think the number was 140.
Yeah.
But it's we rounded up on that. But it's close to that. I think it was right around 130. But yes, brand new deal. It's a deal for 130,000.
I'm in that trade, so it's not that good of a deal.
So we are currently, we had a skip loader that was 40 years old that no longer runs. We've been renting for quite some time now. In fact, included in the mid-year budget is the procurement to extend the rental agreement on the skip loader that's being used. And so it's something that the city uses in operations daily. And so instead of continuing to rent, the idea was to go out and procure a new one. And again, that's not general fund unrestricted money. It's being matched with available restricted funds that are going to be used as 140,000. So it's not 140,000 of general fund money. It's restricted money that's going to be funding that procurement.
You can get a low-hour one, for about 89.
I'll put you in touch with our public works crew. Scott and Fermin would be happy to. That sounds like a deal. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Relative to the hurricane and our declaration of a state of emergency, this is common course where we must it's a reimbursement, right? So first we need to make the expenditure to repair and then submit for the reimbursement. Is that accurate?
For the Hillary repair work, yes, absolutely.
Okay. And just for the sake of refreshing memory, what kind of time frame are we looking at before we could see said reimbursement from our state of emergency declaration? Yeah. So when the damage was incurred, we had a couple of paths to go down as far as being reimbursed. The first was the FEMA route, where that's only a 5% match for the city. The city was unsuccessful with that. The county of San Bernardino was unsuccessful through that. So that is now off the table. Now that we know that one's off the table, we're going back for just a 25% local match. So the 75% reimbursement is 60 days. We're about 60 days away from.
So it does take quite some time now that they've gone through the major disaster category where certain counties were eligible for the FEMA federal monies to get reimbursed. We're now going through that CDAA where the money will be state funded like we have on prior events. And so we're hoping that within the next couple months, we'll get that award notification letter. And once that comes in, we can submit for reimbursement, hopefully very soon here. Okay. And that, like Phil said, it is a 25% local match with that CDAA funding for those costs that we're incurring now. A significant amount of the repair work at the Wilson 3 Basin and other areas has been completed for what was damaged. We're now kind of transitioning into the debris removal phase for that. And so we're still making progress on that as we can with the storm events that have been happening. And so we'll continue to do that. And as soon as we get word on that award, we'll be pursuing that reimbursement request.
Understood.
One other thing to add with that based on your question of the timing, we're not anticipating receiving that during this fiscal year. So the numbers that you saw do not include the revenue being reimbursed. And so that deficit is not including any reimbursement revenue coming back in.
Understood. Any further questions of staff?
Yeah. How many bids do you get on these projects? Do you get 2, 3, 4 bids?
Yeah, depending on the project, our procurement procedures outline the process of going out to bid, and then depending on how many interested parties respond, it's depending on the project.
What's a number? You guys have a number?
We typically see it depends on the type of work. A lot of projects we get more than 5. On the more specialized works, it's not uncommon to see 1, 2, or 3.
So how do you guys pick them? The lowest bid or center bid? How do you normally pick that?
Yeah, the public contract code requires we go through a formal bidding process, and consistent with our city policies, we are required to follow the low bid procedure, as long as all of the documentations included with their bid are appropriate and meet the specifications.
Yeah, the term's lowest responsive. And so we'll go through, and in certain cases, the lowest number is not necessarily the lowest responsible bidder. And so, but typically, if all the boxes are checked and all the due diligence is accomplished, low number wins.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion for item number 9?
I'll make a motion.
Will your motion include 1 through 6?
Yeah.
All right. There's a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Venable. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Thorpe. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Final discussion item of the night. Mr. White, you're at it again. Fiscal year 24-25 budget prep.
Okay, so now that we're done with fiscal year 24 mid-year, we're moving on to fiscal 25. And fiscal 25 has some changes. We just kicked off the process, but the purpose of tonight is to provide a kind of a kickoff, what you can expect to see and when. And ultimately, our objective is we want to increase the understandability of all the financial information. And just as there's pain coming. We've been talking about it, but we're moments away from the pain, a couple of clicks of the mouse. So tonight we're talking about the fiscal 25 budget timeline. We'll go through an updated accounting fund reporting structure. We'll actually spend most of our time with that, with item 2. We'll talk briefly about our objectives that we're targeting as we go through this process. One of the new things that we've got for this year is increased accessibility and availability of budget information for city council, for members of the community, for all stakeholders. There's going to be some cool bells and whistles that come out with this new budget. And then ultimately, where we are in the path to balance, we've talked a lot about being in a budget deficit situation. And so item 5 is just a real high level, kind of where we are in that process as we get back on track. All right, so starting off with the timeline, we kicked it off in early February. We opened that up to departments to start entering their division budgets. By mid-April, we're going to be ready to meet with you and go through a workshop, have a community meeting so that everybody's on the same page as far as what our challenges are and what we're trying to put together. By mid-May, we're going to deliver a draft budget to you for your review and your comment. We're going to take those comments back with us and come back to you in early June to adopt the final fiscal 25 budget. All right, so ultimately, as we go through, we've talked a lot about financial reporting, and what we're trying to do is make it simple to understand. I know me personally, the more I look at our city's financial structure, it's confusing, it's complex, and in certain cases that we've identified, we think it's unnecessary to make it that confusing and that complicated. So we're trying to make it easy to understand. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So this slide, you've seen this slide over and over again, but I wanted to highlight it. This is our city-wide governmental funds balance sheet, assets, liabilities, and equity. It's called fund balance, general fund on the left, other funds moving across. But really, we talked about combining everything into one number, and equity across the city is $44 million in fiscal year 23. So June 30th, 2023, our equity was $44 million, all right? So we're gonna kind of put those into the hopper and split them up and push it back out. But no matter how we chop it up, we're getting back to the $44 million, okay? All right, so the way that we've used governmental funds, the general fund is really just a catch-all. Anything that doesn't fit in a different fund gets pushed back into the general fund. Special revenue funds, they should be used for revenues that are restricted by a third party or committed internally, restricted or committed for use. And so our DIF, our Development Impact Fees Fund, would qualify as a special revenue. We can account for that program in a special revenue fund. Also public safety, because we internally commit fire fund revenues, property tax to the fire fund, it qualifies to be used as a special revenue fund. The paramedic tax is a restricted, external restriction, but we track all that stuff within the fund, and we can call those things special revenue funds. It kind of makes it brings more transparency, makes it a little bit easier to understand as we work through it. And then ultimately, capital projects fund. The city has a ton of capital projects funds. One way to make this a little bit easier to understand would be to consolidate those. Rolling this out into a new structure, we're kind of going in reverse order. So starting with capital projects funds, the city has 10 of them that are reported in its annual financial statements, all with different uses. And what we found in practice is just because it has a certain name, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's tracked in that fund. So it's really, you can't go by the name, you can't go by the fund type. You just have to know the detail of it to understand what's going on. So we think that that's kind of confusing. So if we combined all of these, consolidated them all into one, we feel like that would be a much easier, instead of transferring between all of these things, if we're spending capital dollars, we're gonna put it in a capital fund, kind of make it easy, and everybody thinks that that's a good idea. Moving on to special revenue funds, we've got one tweak and two more significant changes. The tweak is we're just gonna expand the use for grants. I'll leave it at that for now, but as we get into the detail on the accounting side, we're gonna expand our use of special revenue funds when it comes to grants. One significant change is the Development Impact Fee Program, which is currently included in those capital projects, and it has a lot more than development impact fees in it. We're gonna switch that to be used as a special revenue fund and only track DIF fees in that fund, and then take those fees and transfer them out to capital projects funds when we're building things with the DIF. And then the second significant change is public safety, fire, paramedic, and police. We're gonna wrap all of those up into what we call public safety, into one special revenue fund. And that way it's very easy to track all public safety costs with our committed funds for public safety and our restricted funds for public safety, and then backfill with unrestricted. And the crowd likes that one too. Okay, and then the general fund, that's a backfill of everything. And so whatever doesn't fit neatly in other things, unrestricted monies, things like that, all gets wrapped up into the general fund. And so with this update, since we're pushing things out into a special revenue fund right here, that diff program, we have to go back and look at that interfund balance that we've been tracking, that deficit over the course of time, and ultimately determine, was that actually general fund dollars that were used to fund those things? And if so, is there really a collectible receivable from the outside diff funds? If not, we're going to need to write that down. And then the second thing is that carve out of public safety. Theoretically, it would help the general fund to carve out public safety, but ultimately, the general fund is what funds a significant portion of public safety, and so those changes will be highlighted as well. When we do all of those, the bottom half is how it was reported previously with that $44 million. The top half is my notes on how it's going to look in the future. I understand that this is really confusing, so we're skipping that one. And we're going to just go something a little bit simplified. We're ripping off the Band-Aid. There's the $44 million. This is how it was presented in the past, with $50 million in the general fund in equity, $900,000 in the paramedic fund, negative $24 million in the diff fund, and then $16.5 million in everything else. And so a new presentation, pro forma, using the same dollars, we get back to the same 44 million, but under kind of the new rules of what we're talking about. The general fund now has $17 million in it, in equity. That public safety fund has $9.5 million. Roughly 8 is fire fund, and I'm sorry, 8.5 is fire fund, and 1 million is the paramedic fund, that 948 right there. The diff fund still has a deficit, but ultimately that inner fund has been wiped out, so the deficit now is down to 1.8 million, and then all other funds combined is up to $18.5 million. You add up all of those, we still get back to that same 44, but the split is totally different. And as we've talked the last year or so, whenever we talk about general fund, I'm always saying the general fund looks good, but don't stop at the general fund. Keep looking at other things. What this does is cleans all that up to say, hey, our general fund doesn't, 50 sounds like a lot more than 17. Yeah, but now that's a real number, and the split on everything else is that's real too. And as you kind of look through it, we think that this is a much more clear presentation and allows staff the ability to maneuver and communicate real funding with the capital program as we move forward. It's not included in this presentation, but I did kind of roll these balances forward based on the budget information that you saw. And if I can find it here. One thing that I did want to highlight with that is, it's going to be really good when I find it. All right. When we do that, the general fund, when we roll this forward based on that public safety fund, the general fund is going to have to kick in a bunch of money to public safety to pay for the police services. Fire fund and paramedic fund still have an accumulated balance, but this diff fund and all these other ones are wrapped up into capital. They have a bunch of capital included, and previously authorized capital. There's a bunch of it out there. Roughly, the most recent numbers we have is roughly $35 million of previously authorized capital, existing projects that haven't been spent yet, but the authorizations are there. And so one of these things that Fermin's crew is working through is reprioritizing, saying, hey, what projects are a go? What can we hold back on? Because there's a lot out there. If we were to roll this forward, this development impact fee number, if we were to roll it forward 1 year and spend everything that was authorized, that deficit would jump back up to $17 million or something like that. And then on this number here, that number would drop by $10 million, drop it right into like the $7 million range based on all the capital that's in the queue right now. So one of the significant things that we're doing this budget season is reprioritizing capital, saying, hey, what has to go what is authorized, but we're gonna put the brakes on for now. And all of that stuff will be brought back to you during that council workshop to say, here's some solutions that we're gonna try to sell you guys on. All right, moving on to the next topic, our objectives. So as we went through this process, we clearly have two cost centers. One is public safety and one is capital. We have a very, very, very robust capital program for a city our size. And then public safety is, every municipality, public safety is an issue. We have a robust public safety. It's over 50% of our budget goes to public safety, and a significant portion of the remainder goes to capital. So those are the two big costs that we've got. Also, as we're going through 25, we're wrapping up, or we're including the council goals and objectives that you guys just approved a couple meetings ago. We're reprioritizing capital projects as we go through that, and then we're identifying revenue options. The idea of tightening belts and cost cutting is just not a realistic option with where we are. We have to identify ways to recover costs and pay for the services that the community is demanding. One of the bells and whistles of as we move on is the new budget is going to be web-based, available on our website. This is just a screen grab of an entity that uses the same company that we went with ClearGov to provide this, but this city in Georgia has this. It's just a screen grab, but basically, if this was live, all of these things would have drop downs. You could query, you could search for different funds, whatever you wanted. You can create your own reports, and you being council, community, anybody can access this at any time, create their own reports. And so if they had questions on anything budget, they can create their own reports. It's very user-friendly. And so the city is investing in this to provide additional resources, so you don't have to wait for me to come report these things. You can pull them up whenever you chose to do so. And finally, we're in the middle of it. This isn't we make a couple decisions and move on and everything's fixed. This is going to be a multi-year process to get this thing fixed and then ultimately stay the course. But there's 5 different, timeline or significant things that we have to do. One is we have to really identify our historical trends. We've done that. We've gone back at least 15 years. We've sliced it up in all kinds of different ways. So that one, I'd say, this historical trends, we've accomplished that. Identifying long-term solutions. That's these next two go hand in hand, but we're in the process of identifying what those long-term solutions are. We do know that public safety, finding funding for public safety is top priority. And then also, like I said, we have a very robust capital program. The idea, I think that the strategy historically was spend now on capital, and ultimately more revenue will come in. And that strategy has been in place for a long time. Now we're at the point of perhaps it's time to change that strategy, and that revenue that's going to come, it's not here yet, and we're at the point now where we have to say we need to go in a different direction and really watch what we're doing on the capital side. So we're identifying the long-term solutions. Slowing the momentum, once we identify those long-term solutions, we have 15, 20 years with this momentum. It takes some time to kind of slow that down and ultimately stop digging the hole that we're in, and then start moving back up. Trust in the process. Once we have a vision, we're looking for buy-in from all stakeholders to say that we like this direction, we believe in it, and we're going in the right direction. Everybody trusts that we're moving in the right direction, and then ultimately sticking to the plan. Like I said, this isn't a solve it in the next month and we're good. It's going to take several years of tough decisions, saying no to things that sound great. It just doesn't work with the financial plan, in order to slow the momentum, stop it, get back out, and ultimately get back to a balanced budget. Places that have issues like us, it takes them the better part of a decade to get back out. And so it's just a tough thing. Once you're in it, to slow that momentum and turn it around, it's a tough thing. So those are all of the things that we're working towards. Ultimately, by the time we meet with you guys for the meeting in April, we feel like we'll have a pretty good plan. We'll have some solutions for you. And you can kind of point us in the right direction. And hopefully by the time we get to that draft budget, the comments and the review is who knows, maybe becomes the final budget at that point because we're all on the same page. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have with fiscal 25 budget.
Thank you, Mr. White. Questions of staff?
Yeah, does the public have access to this also? Or is this just us?
So yes, public has access. So once the document is adopted, it's on our website. As we go through, this is not live yet. And so this feature will be on our website. And when somebody goes to the city of Yucaipa and says, hey, I want to see the budget, it'll take them to this webpage and that everything will be loaded. We have we're going to launch this with the adoption of fiscal 25 budget. So in June, when you adopt the fiscal 25 budget, when that budget gets loaded, we're launching this so that at that point, anybody can track it. They know what's going on. As we move forward, as we build the budget, we do have an option to load in things as we're building it. That's not going to be for fiscal 25. That would be down the road next time. But this is any member of the public, this is a pretty nifty.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions of staff? Look forward to seeing what you got going on at the next one there, Phil. All right, this is a receive and file, so we'll take or no need to vote on this one. Thank you for the information. All right, at this time, I will open the public hearing on item number 11. The time is 7:23 p.m. This is the Gateway Commercial Plaza, and this will be by Christian Farmer.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor and Planning and City Council members. Today we have case number. Thank you, Ben. Today we have case number 23-094, a conditional use permit and architectural review for the final phase of the Yucaipa Gateway project, including the development of a drive-through coffee shop and drive-through restaurant on approximately 1.95 acres as the continuation of the Yucaipa Gateway project. The applicant also proposes an amended development agreement with the city to reflect the current project and its updates. You guys may be familiar with this project. It recently got occupancy for the hotel, and so this is that last phase of the project. Previously, case number 14-016 was approved for a multiple phase commercial center that included a 3-story 92-room hotel, a combination restaurant office, a drive-through restaurant, a convenience store, car wash, and gas station. It also included a development agreement that was approved by City Council on February 23rd, 2015, and was modified with case number 16-016, architectural review that modified some of the architectural designs of the previously approved gas station. After the construction of phase 1, case number 18-150 was submitted to ensure that the active entitlement remained active and focused on the hotel. Case number 18-150 has since expired before the final phase could be developed, and as a result, case number 23-094 has been submitted for that last phase and makes updates to the site design based on site constraints. An MOU was also approved in early 2023 by the city and identified utility relocation requirements. This was reviewed at the February 7th, 2024 meeting and was recommended for approval 6-0-1 with Commissioner Higginson abstaining. The site is located on approximately 1.9 acres of currently undeveloped land within the Yucaipa Gateway project, home of Yucaipa's first 3-story hotel, and has primary visibility along the I-10 freeway and Oakland Road. The underlying land use district is service commercial with surrounding uses To the north, including service commercial to the east, the I-10 freeway and regional commercial to the west, and regional commercial within the freeway quarter specific plan to the east. The applicant will provide a lot line adjustment or tentative parcel map to realign the parcels to reflect the updated building pads. And so we'll go into the conditional use permit. Phase 3 of the Yucaipa Gateway project. That includes a layout that's largely consistent with prior approvals with the drive-through restaurant, which has been slightly reduced to a 2,535 square foot restaurant with a drive-through aisle that wraps around to allow for additional stacking. A drive-through restaurant, a drive-through coffee shop that is approximately 1,500 square feet and also has a wraparound stacking to accommodate up to 16 vehicles. The architectural design of this last phase ties in with the existing unified commercial center, utilizing similar general design and colors. The restaurant has exterior features like arched doorways, shuttered windows, faux wood trellis, and painted stucco with primary colors that are milk mustache, crisp muslin, and buckskin. The coffee shop will include a mixture of colors and materials, including earth color stucco facade, painted functional gray, and rustic lounge, and will include additional detailing with corporate branding specified by the end user. The development agreement is consistent with the previous development agreement and the memorandum of understanding that was adopted by the city in early 2023. That DA reflects the updated design, includes updates to utility responsibilities, and includes the PC's recommendation for approval. As a part of the project review, notices were sent to all neighbors within 300 feet of the project, as well as published within the newspaper on January 19th and February 16th within the Yucaipa News Mirror. We received one response from the San Bernardino Flood Control District requesting that the city provide conditions of approval for any work that is within the adjacent flood controlled property. As a part of the environmental review, it should be noted that a mitigated negative declaration was prepared and adopted by the Planning Commission with the original project approval, and that the project is substantially similar to that approval with no evidence indicating that there would be any potential significant impacts that would go beyond what was previously reviewed. And therefore, it is staff's recommendation that the City Council conduct a public hearing and consider the Planning Commission's recommendation with the findings on the screen and in the agenda packet. The applicant is here if you guys have any questions for him or for staff.
Thank you, sir. All right. Where is the applicant?
Good evening. My name is Alex Musino. I represent the owner of the property, ACALP. And first of all, I'd like to thank the council and the mayor for giving us this opportunity tonight. We've been working on this project for quite a long time, and we've had our ups and downs, and of course, we've had a lot of cooperation from the city, and that continues up to this date. And I'd like to thank the staff for working with us and getting these two fast foods for the Phase 3 approved, and we're ready to submit precise grading plans within 10 days, and also our final landscaping plan. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer.
Do you have any ideas of tenants that will occupy this restaurant and coffee shop at the moment?
Well, it's Starbucks.
Starbucks for the coffee shop. How about for the?
It's a brand new chain called Backyard Burgers.
Okay. All right. Any questions for the applicant? No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to public comment. I'm being told there is no public comment on this matter, so we'll move on to, there's no rebuttal since there's no public comment. So we'll close the public hearing. The time is 7:30 p.m. Now it's time for the council to discuss the matter. Y'all have anything to discuss?
No.
Is there a motion?
No, you haven't.
Wait, say that again. You lost me.
Anything you want to talk about on the matter? Any
No.
concerns,
No.
questions?
Good.
No? Is there a motion?
I'll make him.
Sounded like there was a motion from Mayor Pro Tem
I'll second that.
Venable and a seconded by Councilman Thorpe. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Farmer, for the presentation. Councilmember reports. Any member of the council have anything to report?
I do. I wanted to read this before that young lady that was appointed to the student board here earlier. So this is from SCAG. I'm the representative for the city of Yucaipa. It says, the annual Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, scholarship program supports students working toward long-term career goals in planning or public service. The program provides a $4,000 scholarship award for 7 high school or community college students from the SCAG region. 2 additional scholarship awards not tied to a specific county may also be awarded at the regional council's discretion. Recipients may also have an opportunity to meet with their local government representatives and practicing planners to discuss the importance of urban planning and a future career in public service. I'd like for that young lady to make sure she gets a copy of this at the appropriate time. And so I just want to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Martinez, maybe we can get you a copy of that for the entire committee? Any other,
Well, we have the bunny hop coming up here.
you have the
pretty
bunny
soon.
hop coming up?
Yeah. Who's gonna, are you gonna run? Anybody gonna run?
Anna?
Mr. Mann, you ran last year, didn't you?
Running might be a bit of an exaggeration. I did complete the course, yes.
Yeah. So we do have the bunny hop, and thank you, Sarah, for bringing that young lady in. She's awesome. If you guys ever get a chance to go to the Youth Advisory Committee meetings and stuff, you have to go. It'll make your hair stand up. Well, some people
Or
hair
fall
stand
off.
up.
Fall off.
The energy that those kids have is amazing.
We had 3 ribbon cuttings this week for new businesses in town. Our Taco Bell, our second Taco Bell down by China Berry, the Care Express Car Wash over on County Line Road, and of course, our second firearm store in the city, Grizzly Firearms, so is it? Yeah, so welcome to new business. Ryan, outstanding work, keeping our economic development moving. City staff, keep up the great work. Mr. City Manager, do you have any announcements?
No announcements this evening.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks, the next regular city council meeting for the city of Yucaipa will be Monday, March 11th. It'll start promptly at 6 p.m. We look forward to seeing you all there, and we will adjourn this meeting at 7:33.
Yeah, that's a cookie, right?